Hi guys, Mark's here, Everything Tenere, and today we're gonna remove the rear linkage arm and check out all the bearings and the shafts that you have that the bolt goes through in the rear linkage from the swing arm, the dog bones and the rear shock. So first off, we're gonna remove it, so you can join me in the removal process, and then we're gonna look at the bearings and everything in the linkage. I'm gonna start with removing my rear shock from the linkage, or that bolt anyway. So I need a 17th for me here. I'm not sure if the OEM one is also a 14, but I will just put it there. Have my little trusty tool, get the bolt out, easy does it. And then you can just lift your swing arm slightly, and now the whole swing arm will fall down. Keep the bolt separated. So now we'll move over to the dog bone that sits in the linkage itself, which is down here. I need to get hold of it. It's a bit hard when you're just one hand. Very easy to come loose. The bolt is already here. And now you have some washers as well. So to be careful to, get all the stuff. And you need to work the swing arm up a bit so you can get the bolt out, because otherwise the side stand covers it. So the inner bolt here on the linkage arm, it's a bit hard to get to. You need to have an open end wrench, get it in there, and then you need leverage. So I have my Yamaha number 27 wrench. I will put that one over this one, and then I will hold this in place, and then I will turn it. So now I get leverage, and it's already loose, and it's fixed in position on the other side of the linkage between two metal flanges. So you do not need to have 8 arms and be able to hold a wrench on the other side. So you just need to turn the nut on this side. So I will actually remove my my shock first, and that's easily done though. So it's just one bolt on the top now left, which should be a 17th, and it's the same there. It has the head of the bolt is kept on the left side of the bike between two flanges, so you don't need to have a wrench on the other side. And we don't want to drop the bolt, the nut. Of course I did that, or I didn't drop it, but there we go. And then we're gonna push the whole thing through. It's a bit tight. To remove the shock, you need to remove the little side cover you have up here. Of course I removed everything already, so. And there we have the bolt. Comes out very easily, or it should do. There we go. The shock is out. This one hanging in the way, I will remove that one, so we don't need to be bothered having that in the way. Also a washer here for the nut side. Keep that washer. Pull this one out. So while we're down here, before we remove this bolt, when you remove this bolt and you still cannot get the link arm out, it's due to these two mounting points, or the brackets that goes down, that are very, very tight. So the only thing you need to do, whack the linkage arm here with something, or try to spread this out a bit. So I had that problem. It was just needed some more you know, will force, so to say. Freaking bolt here on a nut was really a struggle. I had to force this side on by forcing the exhaust out and then get it on and then use a hammer. So my nut was stuck solid, but now it's loose. But I will have to replace this nut because it have got some serious damage on it because of this. I don't know why it's so freaking hard on there, but you know, my linkage arm, as you can see here, has got some really serious hits and some small damages. That's why I want to check the bearings in it, because before I order all the spare parts that I need. So I'm sure that that I don't need to replace the bearings in it. Otherwise I will just order a kit from offtheroad.de, and you have a complete kit, or just the linkage arm. I mean this one for the rear shock. So they have several different kits. So now we're just gonna get the bolt out and try to push it out a bit, because it's, there we go. So we can get the nut off the bolt head, and then the rear linkage is off. There we go. It's off, very well greased, and you can see that the linkage is already it's still on here, so you know it's doesn't want to come off. And that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's wants to still be seated in the position there, and then you just need to use a pry bar or maybe a tire iron, put that in here and force it out, so to say. Not harder than that. Just give that a little more downward pressure, and we will be fine to go. It's out. We have it. So let's change view angle. So the linkage is out. You can see here's the link arm. Before we do anything with this, we will clean it thoroughly before pushing out any of the sleeves that the bolts goes through. So this is how it looks. And this side, the short side, is towards, I think, on the long end here, it's inwards towards the bike. And we have different bolt lengths, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 different lengths. So let's start with the shock bolts. So the top shock bolt is a long one. It actually has a hole here for a pin. That's the longest bolt, or no, not the longest, but slightly shorter than the dog bone bolts. Then we have the lower bolt for the shock, which is the shortest bolt. I have a non-OEM bolt. This is one that comes with the Extreme or the Rally Raid Extreme tractive shock. Then we have the bolt that was a pain in the butt for me. So this sits in the frame in the bike. So I think it was this hole. Yes, correct. And then we have the dog bone bolts, which are, you know, the longest ones, I would say. And the dog bones, doesn't matter if you put it with the text outwards or text inwards, they are all the same. Just don't forget the washer behind the nut, so to say. So cleaning all this is simple, right? So I need to clean the bolts as well. I have somewhere a little degreaser or power cleaner. I will spray this on and I will let it soak for a while, and then we'll, you know, take just paper, maybe my little brass brush, and just, you know, try to get all the mud off, because it could really be sticky into there or onto the part, so to say, and you know, you have all the old grease. So when I'm done with this, we will come back and we will check the sleeves and the bearings and see how it looks. So it's fairly clean, you know, not everything, but around all the seals it's cleaned. I use a small flat screwdriver and some, you know, solvent. Just remove all the seals before I even, you know, think of pushing back the sleeve here. And you can see that it's super important to have link arm protection if you ride a bit harder in really, you know, rocky terrain or go over high obstacles and so on. This was when my was damaged, and or I hit a really sharp rock and I actually cracked the link arm protector. So that's what this damage is from. And I can see that it actually pushed in here a bit. So I'm not sure that all the bearings are fine in there. We will check. So you can just remove your sleeve like this. The sleeve is undamaged, and I actually think I'm fine, but of course I will check the movement of everything here and see that it looks okay. Otherwise I'll just remove the bearing and then order a new bearing kit from off the road, and you know, replace it just in case, because I don't want to ride and then notice that my bearings are all screwed up. But it feels really smooth. There is no play in this one. And one thing that you need to check is also with the bolt itself, so that it's seated correctly and you don't have too much play with the bolt going through the sleeve, so to say. So we can check that. This is the wrong bolt, but you know, you always have some play in here. This was the wrong bolt anyway, so let's take the correct one. So this is the dog bone bolt. Yeah, and you can see that I can move this one. It's some play in this one, and I think that's fine, but you can always get new bolts, and I will check the play in all the other positions as well. So this one is for the rear shock, and now this is an aftermarket bolt, and you still have some play there. So that's fully normal to have some play in these positions, right? So now we're going to remove and clean each of the shafts, or these. So you see they look really nice. They don't really need cleaning, but I will clean them anyway. And then we will have a look inside, and don't forget to clean inside of these as well, right? Because that's where the bolt goes. And make sure that you use clean tools, or, you know, not a reused paper. So you introduce dirt instead of removing dirt. We will put this aside, and then we will have a look into here. So this one has one needle bearing, so it's in the middle, and it looks really good. So what only thing I will do, I will try to dry it out a bit, so remove some excess old grease from the needle bearings. And I don't know really which which model or which type of needle bearing there is, because some of these, if you remove the grease, the bearings will fall out because they are like long, small, tiny cylinders that's in here around in like a holder. So I will remove some old grease just with paper, and then I will apply new fresh grease. So I will just remove, you know, any old excess that I can get to. Necessarily do not need to do this, you know, if you have got dirt in this, of course, then you need to be really, you know, thorough and careful. But do not spray any solvents in here because it will be really hard to get out. And when you put grease on it, the solvent could, you know, dissolve the grease, so it will not be that thick, sticky stuff anymore. So I'll do this and add some grease. So here I have some bearing grease. So I will just, doesn't matter if you take too much, it will pop out when you push in the sleeve. So I will add really richly layer of grease in on these bearings. Move it around so you get it in everywhere. A little bit more. So you cannot really get too much in these because you're not using any pressure to get it in there. And then I just pop in my sleeve, push it in, and it's all good. Dry away all the excess on the outside, because any excess grease that's on the outside, which are, you know, outwards towards the elements, will collect grit, sand and dust. So get all that off and then go to the next one, and we'll do that with all three. Then it's fine to go on to the bike again. So there we go, guys. The linkage is done, cleaned, re-greased, checking for any play and damages. The only thing that I'm a bit, you know, that I wonder about is the sizes of the bolts, because this is an M12 bolt and this is a bit undersized, or it's worn, but it doesn't look that worn out. So I think there's supposed to be a little bit of play on the bolts, because otherwise they can get, you know, really stuck in there in the sleeve. But I'll check around and see how it should be. Next up will be swing arm removal. After that we will make a video about the steering stem, checking the bearings in there. Same with swing arm, of course. So take care, guys, stay safe, and I see you later. Cheerios, bye bye.